Welcome back to Unfuck Your Money, the podcast where go-getters thrive financially. Have you ever noticed that most people know what they should be doing financially? They know that they should be saving more, spending less, paying off their debt, invest, budget, and stop emotional spending. Well, so why don't they? If information was enough, we'd all have healthy saving accounts and retirement funds bursting at the seams. I don't think the problem is a lack of information. In fact, many of my clients can recite every personal finance book under the sun. Financial advice isn't necessarily wrong. However, it assumes that we are operating at full capacity. The challenge is trying to apply good financial advice while also navigating real life. Stress, uncertainty, things like illness, caregiving, grief, burnout, the rising cost of living, relationship challenges, and everyday pressures of just being human. My name is Nadine Zamot. I am a behavioral finance coach and a somatic practitioner. And over the past 7 years, I have helped clients pay off debt, reduce financial anxiety, build savings, increase their income, and create healthier financial habits and develop a calmer, more empowered relationship with money. Because financial wellness isn't just about numbers. It's about understanding the behavior behind your money so you can bridge the gap between knowing what to do and actually doing it. My hope is that every episode leaves you with a little bit more awareness, a little bit more self-compassion, and one practical step you can take towards a healthier relationship with your money and with yourself. Now, let's dive into today's episode. Hello, and welcome back to Unfuck Your Money. Before we dive into today's episode, I'd love to give a shout out to Glee0305, who left the podcast a beautiful review. Glee, who I think is Grace, said, I love that Nadine uses a trauma-informed approach to money that truly gets to the root of my spending and saving habits. I had an aha moment realizing how much of my money issues were tied to my emotions, like comfort spending and having a very feast, famine, binging mentality. If previous financial advice hasn't worked for you, I highly recommend giving this podcast a listen. Thank you so much, Grace, for leaving a beautiful review for this podcast. I really appreciate it. And now let's jump into the episode. Welcome back to Unfuck Your Money. I hope this episode finds you well. I'm your host, Nadine Zamot. So let's talk about abundance and scarcity today. So let's start with scarcity. What does scarcity actually feel like to you? Is scarcity always about money? Have you ever had plenty of money, yet you still felt scarcity? Have you ever had very little money, but moments of abundance? Scarcity can be both a circumstance and an internal experience. This is a very important distinction that I would love to make. There are times when scarcity is real. You genuinely do not have enough money. Then there are times when your nervous system continues to respond as though you're still in danger even after your circumstances have changed. I've got some good news and some bad news for you today. Don't worry, it's all good news. Scarcity is never going to go away as long as we're locked into this physical body and belong to this physical world where time and resources are finite. Where in the back of our minds, we know that our time here is limited and how much we can do is limited. In other words, the goal isn't to eliminate scarcity because it's impossible. Why? Because scarcity is part of the human condition. Our time is finite, our energy is finite, our lives are finite. There will always be seasons where resources feel tighter than we'd like. There will always be uncertainty. If our goal is to never feel scarcity again, then unfortunately, we're going to be setting ourselves up for failure. Instead, what if the goal becomes to increase our capacity to experience scarcity without letting it run or ruin our lives. Scarcity feelings, when it comes to money, are a combination of our history with resources and our current reality. Not just yours, but what you see, what you witness, what you experience in the world around you. Scarcity can be the driving force behind many, many financial habits. Some that seem like they're bad choices, like spending heavily or depriving yourself from enjoyment, hoarding the money because you don't know when or if it will ever come around again. This is especially true in turbulent times and if your income is fluctuating in nature. Neither is good or bad. It's just information and data points that you cultivate awareness of. And only when you reach a point where you can see these habits with compassion and within their context will you be able to affect long term changes. Scarcity is not the enemy. Scarcity is information. It tells us where your nervous system feels unsafe, where your history is speaking loudly, where your needs are activated or triggered, where your protective parts are working hard. Think about it this way. If I were to ask you, would you like to never feel fear ever again? You'd probably say no because you know that fear has a purpose. It keeps you alive. So the goal isn't to eliminate fear, it's to develop enough capacity that fear doesn't make every decision for us. Fear doesn't rule our world. So the good news is that I think that scarcity is the same. Scarcity is not the enemy, it's information. It's accurate information sometimes. Sometimes it's historical information. Sometimes it's inaccurate information. Sometimes it's protective information. Our job is not to silence it. Our job is to learn how to stay with it and work with it. This is why one of the most important things that I aim to teach you as a client or as a listener of this show is something called compassionate awareness. This is not a cute sounding slogan or this is not fluffy words. It is a real deal de-shaming skill that will help you grow like no discipline or willpower ever will. If you want your bad habits to continue to grow, shame is perfect for that. Rephrasing from my friend Felina on a previous episode on this show, shame is miracle grow for bad habits. If you want better, healthier habits, compassionate awareness is key. So I grew up with a lot of scarcity. Some of it was material scarcity, but the worst of it was the lack of empathy and emotional neglect that I experienced from my father. For me, that is bigger, that is a much bigger contributor to my scarcity wounds, far greater than the fear and the uncertainty of growing up in the war torn Middle East of the 80s and the 90s. I've been studying scarcity for many, many years and I've learned a lot about it. So, this little life example is going to help bring my what I'm going to be teaching you, kind of might help it land. So I'm a new driver. I had to learn how to drive in my late 30s. I've always lived in Melbourne before that, and the public transportation system in Melbourne is really, really on point and it's safe, so I never had to drive before. But when I came to the US, I had to learn how to drive. And as a new driver, I noticed that I can get overwhelmed very quickly. And I had to learn the hard way that when I'm overwhelmed, it's actually better to slow down, not to speed up. So, what does that have to do with money and scarcity? Well, I feel like they're pretty much the same because when we're experiencing a moment of scarcity or experiencing scarcity in general, our nervous system and our body goes into overwhelm. So let's say you're about to buy something and you're feeling the scarcity and you're kind of going back and forth trying to decide whether to buy it or not, and you're feeling this scarcity in your body. I would tell you right here and now that it's very helpful to slow down and notice the overwhelm and slow down a little bit more. From a behavioral finance standpoint, slowing down gives your nervous system a chance to stay inside its window of tolerance long enough to make a conscious, more responsible decision. When we are in our window of tolerance, we are able to remain in touch with ourselves even when difficult moments arise. Scarcity narrows our capacity. When we're overwhelmed, we rush, we catastrophize, we react. So, again, the goal isn't to eliminate scarcity. It's impossible to do that. It's to build enough capacity that we can remain present in our window of tolerance when scarcity shows up. So try to slow yourself down, even though you naturally feel like you want to speed up and make a decision straight away. But practice slowing down. And honestly, that can change the entire experience. Okay, so let's imagine someone has had an unexpected expense. Immediately, the scarcity shows up. It shows up for me. The narrative might sound something like, I'll never get ahead. What if more things go wrong? I can't spend more money on anything right now. Most people can have one of these two reactions. Mine would look like panicking and reacting impulsively. Another reaction would be avoid thinking about it altogether. But what if there's a third option? What if the third option arises when we actually slow ourselves down? What if we notice what comes up, we slow down, we become curious, we orient to what is also true? Yes, the expense is shit, but it's real, and I still have a roof over my head. I still have people who love me. I still have skills. I have survived difficult circumstances and seasons before. I have choices. By doing that, the nervous system begins to learn that scarcity is present, but it's not the whole story. That's where capacity grows. And on a spiritual note, I personally noticed over the years that I keep waiting for God, the universe, to show me that I am loved and that I'm worthy of love through money. When things are good, I'm always hoping and expecting and crossing my fingers, desperately hoping that this goodness will trickle into money. And this makes perfect sense when you look at my history. It's not greed that makes me crave love in the form of money, but it was how I was conditioned and raised as a child. If I was good, then dad gives me money to go on school trips. If he deems that I'm bad, then nope, no money. So money became a proxy for love in our household. In nervous system terms, I somehow, somewhere along the way, my nervous system learned or overcoupled that money and love belonged together. This actually makes me miss out on a lot in my day to day life. It makes me miss out on being present with nature, with my family, with my cross stitching. God, the universe is actually communicating so much love and abundance in every moment of every day. When I don't believe in abundance, in other words, when I'm believing in scarcity, it's like I'm not believing that the universe loves me. And this love is actually unconditional. Literally, there is nothing we can do or say or think that will make the universe or God not love us anymore. God loves me and has been loving me through the mountains, through my partner, through my health, through my dog, through my parents, through even through difficult circumstances. These are all, they've always been and always will be channels for God's love. And God will never ever withhold love from me. And will never withhold what I need from me. I always trust that. I don't, well, I always know it's true, and it's a life skill to practice to always trust it, given my history and my circumstances. But believing that this is a way of life, believing it is a practice, we know that it's true, but coming back to this truth time and time again, especially when things are hard, it's a life skill, it's a practice, it's a way of life. If this rings any truth for you, then make this a life practice for you as well. I really recommend the work of Wayne Dyer and Marianne Williamson. Seeing the world, including money, from that lens of the universe's love and God's love is a life skill that you build day by day, moment by moment. This is not about if I believe hard enough, then everything will be okay. This is about knowing that God and the universe's love is not contingent about money. Now, let's look at this issue from a somatic experiencing lens. Scarcity reduces gradually with experiences where we allow ourselves to experience the abundance that is actually present in every moment. Okay, we call this orienting. So we can reduce our scarcity gradually when we allow ourselves to experience the abundance that is also present in every moment. Okay, so orienting doesn't just mean looking at pretty flowers. Orienting is helping the nervous system notice resources that are genuinely present. That might be a supportive partner, having enough food today, your dog sleeping beside you, sunlight, a savings account that you have, your own skills. This isn't denial, it is simply broadening our awareness. We don't ignore that things are hard. We don't ignore that our circumstances may be hard right now, but we slowly train ourselves to also see the abundance that is present. Again, like everything that I teach, this is not an overnight change. It's a practice that gradually builds with, you guessed, compassionate awareness. This is why I always say the road to abundance is paved by scarcity. It's not about denying that scarcity is real. It's about trusting that abundance is real as well and that it's available in every moment, no matter what is happening. Scarcity lives in our nervous system. It holds our history and it learns through our experiences, because I don't think abundance is the opposite of scarcity anymore. I think abundance is the ability to perceive resources even when scarcity is present. Abundance becomes a natural part of our life when every moment, every time we encounter fear, when we encounter scarcity, we recognize it, and we recognize that if scarcity exists, if scarcity is present, then so is abundance, and training ourselves to see abundance in every situation. It's not sexy, but it works. Practicing slowing down when we feel the overwhelming pull of fear and scarcity sounds too simple, especially when things are really hard. But I really recommend you give it a go. It won't hurt you. Do it as a 1 week experiment. Every time scarcity shows up, we have an opportunity to practice. Practice slowing down. Practice orienting. Practice noticing what's available. Practice asking, what is this feeling of scarcity trying to protect me from? Practice making one intentional decision instead of one reactive decision. Over time, we're not eliminating scarcity, we're expanding our capacity to hold it. Because remember, scarcity is just part of the human experience. I tried to eliminate it, but it didn't work. So we expand our capacity to hold it, and as our capacity expands, so does our freedom. Whether you call it God, whether you call it the universe, whether you call it self-trust, whether you call it faith, I found it incredibly healing to practice believing that I don't have to use money as evidence that I'm worthy, that as evidence that I'm okay. Money will have seasons, some abundant, some lean. Money ebbs and flows. It's in its nature. But I don't want my sense of safety, my sense of worth, or my hope to also rise and fall with my bank account. It's a practice that I return to again and again and again. Faith isn't believing that you'll always get what you want. It's trusting that your life is bigger than your current circumstances. When scarcity narrows your attention, faith broadens it again. Not by pretending scarcity isn't real. We're not doing spiritual bypassing here. It's by reminding you that there's more than what your nervous system can currently perceive. Every time scarcity says there's not enough, try to practice asking a different question. What is already here that I cannot see while I'm afraid? Here's something I'd love to leave you with today. Scarcity has a way of convincing us that what we see in front of us is the whole story. Faith gently reminds us that there's more to the story. There might be resources, opportunities, people, love, wisdom, or support that we cannot perceive at the moment we're in when we're in survival mode. So before you rush to solve a problem, slow down and breathe and ask yourself, what might I be unable to see right now because fear has narrowed my vision? Because that's all scarcity is, it's fear. So let's do this in a different way. This week, when you notice scarcity, pause, slow down, then orient to what else feels abundant, then choose your next step. Thank you so much for tuning in to Unfuck Your Money and hanging out with me today. If you enjoyed this podcast and you would love to leave a 5-star review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, I would be very grateful for that. Leave a review, and if you'd like to send me a screenshot, I would love to send you a little present to thank you for your time. If today's episode resonated with you and you're tired of wondering why money feels harder than it should, I invite you to do yourself a favor and book a one-on-one financial wellness session with me. Together, we will explore the emotional, behavioral, and nervous system patterns driving your financial decisions. We can identify what's getting in your way and create a practical path forward that actually works for your real life. I don't think you need more financial advice, my love. I think you need help understanding why you're struggling and what's standing in your way of doing what you already know will help you. You can book a session in the link in the show notes. Thank you so much and take care until next time.